Hello, family. So I have a great video for you guys today, and it's something I've actually been thinking about a lot lately, and so I thought I would bring it to my channel here, and might be something really interesting for you to also ponder in sort of your own life. I am going to be talking more to my feminine women listeners a little bit more. However, I think it's beautiful and important information for everybody. And so the topic today is how much of what we experience in terms of symptoms, behavioral patterns, things we want to change or improve on, is because of toxins, how much is because of trauma, and how much is it that we are just doing too much, right? How much is it that we are not living in alignment with how the human experience is biologically designed to be living, which is basically very, very close with nature, because we are a part of nature. And we've had a separation from our mother, right? Our Mother Earth. And this separation was sort of the beginning of a really kind of a separation from a part of ourselves, and the beginning of sort of onset dis-ease, right? And so I think it's really important for us to try to figure out in our lives how we can adjust, because when we talk about, like with the nervous system, I talk a lot about capacity. And if you don't understand really everyone probably knows what capacity means, but in nervous system and trauma terms, it's important that you can go back and listen to some of my other previous videos, but it's important that when we're trying to heal our trauma and we're trying to regulate our nervous systems, it's important that we understand what our true capacity, what our capacity is currently, which is our wounded part, right? Our wounded part, our dysregulated parts are going to have a smaller capacity. And then what is our goal? What is our goal capacity, right? It's nice to have a little bit of a picture of that goal, of what we want to be able to take on and feel regulated and good, and how much more we feel like we want to fit in our day. And then the other piece that I'm talking about today is how much is too much. Like, we're living in an masculinated, if that's a word, society. And the masculine pushes, man. They are the fighters. They're that energy, and I'm talking about energy here, okay? If you're in a feminine body and you are born, I'll say, I know this is a touchy subject. I don't want to offend anybody. But if we're talking about energy and we're talking about biology, most who are born with feminine biology have more, or born with more feminine energy, okay? This is a generalization. Not a rule. Again, not to offend anybody. And so if we're living in a masculine society generally, right? This is a patriarchal world of working 50 to 60 hours a week, being a mother, or a father. I've got some single dads here, right? Probably, maybe. And like basically, living in single family homes. Most of us have little community. We're having children later in life, which means our parents are not as much roles in our kids' lives and helping out as much as maybe they once did in the 70s and 80s. When I was growing up, we lived next to my grandmother, and my grandmother and my aunt were always over at my house helping to take care of me. that's not really how we are doing things anymore. And so how much of our capacity is just unrealistic? Like how much of what we want to be able to be doing is unrealistic and not actually in our biology to be able to do without disease. You know what I mean? And so it's like we can push ourselves. It's almost like trying to put a square into a circle, a square peg into a circle, into a circle mold. You know what I'm trying to say? It doesn't work, right? And so those of us who embody more feminine energy, the feminine energy is this restful energy. It is receiving. So the feminine energy is in tune with intuition. We use more of our right brain. Our left brain is more of that logical. We want some balance, you know? I'm certainly not saying don't work, don't achieve your goals, don't do all these things. I'm also doing this, right? That takes a little bit of sort of this push, this sort of, get up and go. I always compare, for lack of a better word, sort of the masculine energy with sort of that fight, flight, sympathetic stuff. And then the feminine energy with this parasympathetic rest and digest. When we're in a restful receiving, rest and receiving is the feminine energy. Then we are in line with our higher self, and our intuitive gifts and our psychic gifts come more online. That is the feminine, the essence of the feminine, the divine feminine energy. The essence of the divine masculine energy is protector, warrior. It's not to say that there aren't feminine energies that also have embraced this warrior, of course, right? But what I noticed as I became more regulated is I have more capacity, so have less of a desire to push myself past what I know is actually healthy, not for my wounded self, but actually healthy for my authentic self, right? And so I started adjusting things when I started becoming more regulated and more in flow with my circadian rhythm. Things started to get easier for me. I started having less flares. I don't have, onsets of physical symptoms anymore, like body aches and pains, depression, anxiety, and all the things that I suffered from when I was really in the depths of my illness, lupus. And when I became more in flow with the natural rhythm my body is supposed to be doing, I started realizing I actually don't need to be working 50, 60 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 30 to 40 hours a week is right where my sweet spot is. Because then I actually have capacity for my kids. Now, my capacity continues to grow, but that doesn't mean I take on more work. That actually means I grow more energy to do the things that I am in alignment to do, which is be connected and hands-on with my children. So the wounded part of me, before I was regulated, wanted to grow capacity to work more, do more, produce more, make more money, be impressive to everybody else, right? That's that functional freeze. That's part of that, like, sort of, people-pleasy stuff. I wanted to show up more online. I wanted to do, that actually wasn't fully in alignment with my authentic self. I actually just want a steady, stable, manageable rhythm. And my extra capacity that I'm growing is for my family and for building my land. As my regulation came on board, what I noticed is my intentions around what I'm doing with my newfound energy and capacity has changed. And so, when I talk about sort of feminine energy, the feminine energy is the nurturing, mothering part. And so what I noticed when I became more regulated is I want to be in my mothering role more, in alignment with my authentic self. Again, when I was in my dysregulated, wounded part, I was disconnected from my kids, actually. I couldn't really connect with them. And like I said, I wanted to grow capacity because I wanted to work harder. It wasn't because I wanted to, I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so, I've just realized over time how everything has shifted. And this is the beautiful part about growing nervous system regulation and capacity and healing our trauma, because our intentions really, really shift a lot. And so one of the intentions of this video is for me to sort of spark a little bit of some thought-provoking things within you of like, what will you do with your extra capacity? We're at the end of our lives. Like, what do we want to have accomplished and done? For me, I want to be a really connected mother, and I want to help all of you heal, but if I'm not starting with my own body and my own family first, then for me the rest is out of alignment, right? It has to start from that core place. And so when you think about sort of that higher perspective, where is your capacity now? And as that grows, what do you feel is in your highest alignment to do with that extra, that newfound energy, that newfound part of you, right? And can you tap into that authentic part of you? Sometimes, even if we're not fully regulated yet, we can tap into that part of us by envisioning even us in 5 years, us in 10 years, like I said, us at the end of our lives, what we want to have had accomplished, what we would have wanted to have spent our time actually really doing, and I want to encourage those who embrace the feminine energy to really embrace the feminine energy. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to accomplish certain work goals. It just means there's a better balance. And I really am, I'm a huge advocate for the feminine, the awakening of the feminine energy, this mother, this connectedness, this nurturance. I believe in my heart that it is something we are definitely missing. And I see women trying to achieve and push in a very masculated way. I think our society and our children are actually suffering because of that. And so, I'm an advocate for the real feminine energy, not the feminine energy that wants to act like the masculine. There's a difference. This might be triggering for some people, but for me, like I said, once I became more regulated and once I became more in touch with my authentic self, my feminine energy started to come back, and my intentions for how I want to spend the rest of my life have changed drastically. It includes my kids. It also includes nature and coming back to my mother Earth, the mother Gaia, right? That we are all a part of, that is weaved into the DNA of every single soul on this planet, no matter how far and how detached we all get with all the tech and AI and all this stuff, right? It's still in the fabric of who we are. And so for me, again, as I've gotten more regulated, I've gotten closer to those parts of me. And for you, again, to ponder is how do you think your growing capacity will change? Your intentions of what you want to do with your life. It's an interesting thing to think about. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.